12 signs you still have too much stuff. If you've ever been stressed out or overwhelmed about clutter, chances are you've probably thought about getting rid of everything, starting fresh. I'm in my attic. I know that I have definitely fantasized about getting one of those like construction slides or those chutes and then renting a dumpster and just throwing everything through the chute and out. I've even thought about like moving away and just leaving everything. We're not gonna do that. That's not an option. When it comes to clutter, there is often a much larger issue at stake. So it's not just like too much stuff. It also comes with mental health issues. Sometimes it's also linked with financial health, and it just really affects how your home looks and how you feel in it. So today I'm sharing 12 signs that you still have too much clutter. I'm gonna start small and then I'm gonna work my way up to like the really big things and the really big deals. Okay, the first is that you're constantly misplacing your items. So like you come home from work, you put your keys down, you put your wallet down, and then you can't find it in a couple hours or the next day. Or maybe you're misplacing kitchen items or items in your closet. A couple of years ago, I had bought a Mother's Day card and I somehow misplaced it. And then it turned up like 2 years later. And what happened is I had to buy a replacement for that card. If you are finding yourself misplacing things and then you're needing to buy replacements, that is a sign that you have too much stuff. This next one, if you have kids and they are constantly expecting you to buy them new things, whether it's new toys, new clothing, if they have this expectation that they're going to be getting something new, then chances are you have too much stuff. Because they have the expectation, it means that you're probably buying a lot of things and they've kind of come to like not really value possessions and feel like they should be getting new things all the time. I also find that when my kids have too many toys or too many pieces of clothing, they're just overwhelmed by choice. And even though they had a ton of toys at one point, they were still constantly bored and always looking for things to do. So do your kids a favor and don't buy them new things all the time and limit what you're buying. And it will really help them because fewer choices will make them happier. Even though it sounds off, it's very true. The next sign that you have too much stuff is you are buying things to organize your clutter. I used to do this all the time. I had so much stuff and I thought if I just had an organizational system, then everything would be fine and it wouldn't feel as cluttered. So I would buy baskets, install shelves. You can't organize your clutter. You just need to get rid of it. Honestly, in accumulating organizational things and buying these things, it just causes more stress. So rather than wasting your time and your money on buying organizational things to organize your clutter, spend your time getting rid of your clutter. The next sign that you have too much stuff is that you can't decide where to begin. We have so many places in our home where clutter can accumulate, whether that's your attic, your kitchen, your bathrooms, your bedrooms. And when you start thinking about this, it feels really overwhelming to think about all of the rooms you have to declutter. So if you feel really overwhelmed about it, but you are thinking about decluttering, I'm here to tell you, don't worry, because the fact that you're thinking about decluttering is actually a really big part in the process, and it means that you've already done step one. Once you're kind of past that hurdle, my advice here is to simply start with one drawer or one corner of a room or one shelf. Honestly, just pick one thing to start with. That is the only way to get started. The next sign that you have too much stuff is if you are constantly reading articles about how to declutter or watching videos on how to declutter. I'm not saying to click off this video. Watch this video until the end, and then when you're done, go ahead and get started. But if you're constantly seeking out information on how to declutter, it's definitely a sign that you've got too much stuff. So after this video, go do that one drawer or that one shelf that we just talked about. The next sign is that you cannot close your drawers and your shelves and your cabinets. You can't close them because there's too much stuff in them. That is a huge sign that you've got too much stuff and that you need to declutter these areas. The next sign, and this happened to me, is that you're constantly cleaning. Back in the day, I had tons of flat surfaces that were covered in clutter. I had piles all over the floor, and I felt like I was constantly cleaning. For some reason, when you've got a lot of piles and a lot of clutter, it just attracts dust, and it attracts more clutter, and it attracts dirt, and then you have to constantly clean. I've shared before that the number one, by far, hands down, the number one way to keep your home clean is to have less stuff. And that is what I do, and that is the only way to keep your house clean and stay on top of it without having to constantly clean. Next is that clutter is impacting your work life and your home life, and I'm just gonna give you some examples of how this could happen. But if you are leaving the house for work, and if you can't find certain things because you have too much clutter, it's a sign that you have too much stuff. Or if you work from home and your desk is cluttered, and that's just gonna make you unproductive and feeling like you can't get any work done, because it really does get into your mind and take up a lot of mental space. Or even if you don't work and your kitchen is too cluttered for you to even make a meal, or maybe you wanna eat a meal and your kitchen table is too cluttered. When the clutter starts impacting your life, like your everyday life in those ways, that is a surefire sign that you have too much stuff. Okay, I saw this stat, but did you know that 75% of Americans cannot fit their car in their garage because they have too much stuff? Their garage is too full. This was shocking to me because the garages are meant to hold your car. Sure, you can store other things in there, but if you can't fit your car in there, that's when you know you've got too much stuff and you're using your garage as like a storage unit instead of what it's intended for. Speaking of storage units, that kind of brings me to my next point, but I think that if you are renting a storage unit for your clutter, for your stuff, that is another huge sign. I know there are certain instances where people may need a storage unit, and yes, that makes sense. But in most cases, we don't need storage units. I also saw another stat that 90% of the storage units in the US are full and at capacity right now. That is somewhat horrifying to think that we're storing all of that stuff in these units. Not only is it just like taking up a lot of our time and energy to store things, it's also expensive. You have to pay monthly fees. And the other thing about storage units is, think about, like, if you have one, how often do you actually go to it? And when you do go to it, can you actually find what you're looking for? Have you gone there in some time? These are all things to think about and all reasons to consider perhaps getting rid of that storage unit, and kind of knowing that if you've got one, it may be a sign that you've just got too much. Okay, now that we're kind of getting up in the numbers, we're getting up to like the more serious things. So the next one, if you have unusable space in your home or an unusable room. I used to have a condo, and when we first moved into it, we had a guest room, and we just shoved everything that we didn't know what to do into it in that guest room. And for probably the first year of owning that condo, we did not use that room. It was just a cluttered mess. One afternoon, I got sick of it and I just cleaned the whole thing. It was so nice to have that extra room and that extra space that looked nice, and it literally only took me an afternoon. I don't know what I was waiting for. But if you've got rooms in your home that are unusable because of clutter, it means you've got too much stuff. And speaking of like spaces that are unusable, I also think that goes along with this is if you find it difficult to move around your home. I do think that this could more venture into like hoarder category potentially, but if you're not able to like freely move between your rooms, huge red flag that you've got way too much stuff. And the next sign that you have too much stuff is that you avoid being home. If you make excuses to get out of the house, or you try to find things to do so that you don't have to be in your home, it could mean that you've got too much stuff in there, because your home, it should be a sanctuary. It should be a place that you enjoy. It should be a place that you retreat to and that you love. But if you've got too much stuff and it feels suffocating or unhappy to you in your home, that is a big sign that you've simply got too much stuff. Don't ever want your clutter to prevent you from enjoying your home. Listen, as they say, you may think that you own your stuff, but what actually happens is your stuff ends up owning you. We don't want that to happen. We want to be more mindful and intentional about all of the stuff that we have. We want to love our space. If you've been watching my channel, you know that I've been cleaning my attic. I've been doing some Swedish death cleaning. I've been decluttering my basement. More to come on that. I'd love for you to come along with me. Together, let's make our homes a place that we love and a place that we really enjoy being. I will link some videos up here if you want to keep this decluttering going. Otherwise, go start, just get that one drawer decluttered, get that one corner of a room decluttered. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in my next video. Bye-bye.